guys, today we are going to learn a new tense called present perfect tense. Have you ever heard that? No? Then we'll learn this lesson. Before we start the lesson, let's go some review on tenses. Until now we have learned present simple tense, present continuous tense, past simple tense, past continuous tense, simple future tense. Now, if you haven't learned past continuous tense, you can tell me and I'll teach you later. And present perfect tense? Now let's look at some information of present perfect tense. Now let's look at the formation of present perfect tense. Now we know the basic structure of present perfect tense is have or has depends on the third person, means I, we, you, they, he, she, it. Adding the past participle of the verb. What is a past participle? Later I'll tell you. We form the positive and negative statement in the present perfect tense like this. I have or have been to Japan. Now this one is a contraction. If you don't know what is contractions, you can look at the Nearpod lesson early that I've sent you, and they haven't or have not cleaned up their classrooms. And we ask and answer questions in present perfect tense like this. Have I turned off the lights? Yes, you have, or no, you haven't. Do you understand it? Let's zoom to the next slide. When to use present perfect tense. This is really important. You must need to understand when to use, or you will be very confused and don't know what is present perfect tense. The first use of using it is talking about an action that has taken place, but the time of the action is not mentioned. Why? It is because in present perfect tense, the time of the actions is not important. So when you are looking some present perfect tense sentence, you will not see the time, like yesterday, tomorrow, etc. Let's look at some examples. Johnny had just started to do his homework. Mr. Chan has bought a beautiful new car for his friend. Now we know that it doesn't have the time, means yesterday or a week ago. Let's look at the second uses. Talking about an action that started in the past and continues up to the present, and will probably also continue in the future. We often use since and for to show how long the future has lasted. Now, the since and for I will talk about later in the time keywords. Now, Bobby has lived in Mongkok for 5 years. They have been friends since 2005. Now, the time verb for is used here for 5 years. That means they have lived it 5 years ago and lived until now, or probably in the future. We don't know that. And they have been friends since 2005. Means since 2005 till now they're still friends. But we don't know. It will probably also continue in the future. Great if you understand it. Ding 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 ding. The simple past tense and the present perfect tense are not used in the same way. We use the simple past tense to talk about an action that started and finished at a specific time in the past. Let's look at some examples. Patrick left Hong Kong last month. We knew that exactly when did Patrick left Hong Kong. The time word is last month. Because just now I've told you that in present perfect tense the time is not important, but when it is simple past tense you must write the time. We do not use present perfect tense with a specific time. The example is Patrick has left Hong Kong. We don't know exactly when did Patrick left Hong Kong. Time keywords. We often use for and since with the present perfect tense to talk about an action that started in the past and is still continuing, is equal to uses to. For to say how long an action has lasted. Example, Bobby has lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, means 5 years ago until now. Now, since is a really a special time keyword. Why? Let's see. Since is used to say when an action has started. Sometimes it is a single point of time. They have been friends since 2005. Means the 2005 is a specific point of time. But sometimes it's a longer period of time. Example, I have been to Japan since I was at primary school. Since I was at primary school, the I was at primary school is a quite long of time. It should be last 6 years. Continue with the time keywords. We often use the following time adverbs with the present perfect tense. Ever in questions to ask if an action has happened at any time in the past. Never in statements to say that an action has not happened at any time in the past. Just to talk about any action that was completed only a very short time ago. Already to emphasize that an action has happened. Yet in negative statements to say that an action has not happened, but should already happen soon. And yet we also use it in questions to talk or ask if an action has happened. When we are using the ever action in the positive statements, means the examples is, have you ever been to Japan? Yes, I have been to Japan. We don't use ever. But when is it a negative statement? No, I have never been to Japan. We need to use never for negative questions in ever, okay? Now let's look at a little video about a present perfect tense versus the past simple tense.
A common problem students have is understanding the present perfect simple and the past simple. Which one should we use? When should we use it? The good news is, although they can be confusing at first, they're actually quite simple once you understand their differences. Let's take a look at the present perfect simple first. The present perfect simple has 3 functions. We use it to talk about past events.
The present perfect simple means present perfect.
Recent past events and unfinished states. The first function is talking about past events. To understand the past events function, let's use a timeline. So on the left, we have the past. In the middle, we have the present, and on the right, we have the future. The present perfect simple indicates that something happened in the past, but we don't know when it happened. We just know that it happened sometime in the past between the day that you were born until now. Let's use an example here using the sentence I've been to Australia. This means that sometime in the past you went to Australia. Now, be careful of the difference between been and gone. Gone means that you went there, but you're still not back yet. Been means that you went there and then you left. And of course, we don't know when you went. It could have been last year or 10 years ago. So when someone asks you, have you been to Australia? It means, have you been there any time from the day that you were born until now? We often use never to emphasize negatives and ever to emphasize our questions about past events. So for example, have you ever been to America? No, I've never been to America. The second function of the present perfect simple is talking about recent past events. We can also use just, already, and yet for emphasis. For example, Mum, have you finished cooking dinner yet? Yes, boys, I've just made your favorite. And finally, the third function of the present perfect simple is talking about unfinished states. Just remember, we use for a period of time. For example, for an hour, for 2 days, for the last 10 years. And we use since for a starting point of time. For example, since last night, since 3 months ago, since the 1980s. Let's take a look at our timeline again so we can understand this better. On our timeline, we have the past, present, and future. The boy met the girl at a certain point in the past, and they still know each other in the present, which is during their date at the restaurant. But they have known each other for 2 weeks, which means they met 2 weeks ago. On the other hand, the past simple has only one function, that is, to talk about finished events where the time is known. In this scene, although the time is not mentioned, both the boy and his mother know the time of the date. The mother asked her son how his date was because she already knew that he was going on a date. Also, we can use just for emphasis that an event recently happened. So in this example, the boy could have said, "We just broke up." Now, let's take a look at the form for present perfect simple statements. So the form is subject plus have or has or their negative form plus never, just or already. These words are optional. Plus past participle plus whatever you want to write plus for, since, yet, or time words such as before, recently, and lately. Again, these are optional. Let's take a look at some examples. I've been to Australia. The subject is I plus have plus the past participle been plus to Australia. I've never been to America. Here we used never before the past participle. I haven't made dinner yet. Here we used yet at the end of the sentence. We've known each other for 2 weeks now. Here we used for 2 weeks now at the end of the sentence. Now let's have a look at the form for present perfect simple questions. For open questions, the form is WH our question word plus have, has, or the negative form plus the subject plus past participle plus whatever you want to say plus for. Now the for is optional. For yes/no questions, the form is have, has, or the negative form plus the subject plus ever, which is optional, plus the past participle plus whatever you want to say plus yet or a time word. Again, these are optional. Remember, WH and how question words and for are for open questions. Ever, yet, and time words are for yes/no questions. Let's have a look at some examples. Have you been to Australia? So we start the question with have plus the subject you plus ever plus the past participle been plus to Australia. Have you finished cooking dinner yet? Here we use yet. How long have we known each other for? Here we began the question with how long and ended it with for. So, to summarize, we use the present perfect simple for past events, recent past events, and unfinished states. And we use the past simple for finished events where the time is known. If you've enjoyed our video, please visit our website at umonzu.com.
Now, do you understand the uses of present perfect tense and simple past tense? Well done!
For more videos, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and like, comment and share our videos. And make sure you tell your friends and colleagues about Umonzu.
Bye bye and see you next soon for other English facts. Bye bye!